In June this year, my dad and I went on a cycling trip to the Provence and Vercors region in France. We rode our bikes for 5 days and encountered some of the most beautiful things I have seen in my life. The first day was a shorter warm-up ride. The next 3 days we did a bikepacking trip, starting from and coming back to our stay in Loyol-du-Comte. On the final day, we climbed the mythical Mont Ventoux. In total, we rode 540 kilometers with just over 10,000 meters of elevation. The day we arrived, we decided to take our bikes for a short spin of 50 kilometers around the area. We rode through des Dentelles de Montmirail. The views were stunning and the sun was beating it down. With an average temperature of 34 degrees and no wind during the ride, I was being cooked alive on the first day. My dad loves the heat, so he was handling this no problem. After the ride, we cooled ourselves down in the pool, headed out for dinner and started packing our bags to leave early the next morning. Our bikepacking adventure started with a short 20-kilometer ride to Orange, where we caught a train that took us up to Valence. Once we got out of the city, the mountains greeted us soon. First up was the Col de Tourniol. It's a 12-kilometer climb with an average of 6% and some nice hairpin turns. Perfect to get us in the zone for what was to come over the next few days. After we reached the summit, we had one more mountain to climb, and from there on we had constant up and down, on and off-road. We spent a good amount of time in the forest, with the occasional hike-a-bike. After walking for quite a while, we got treated with a smooth descent, and suddenly this popped up around the corner. Combe Laval, a canyon of a magnitude I had never seen before. This road twists and turns along the claystone walls, and we were riding it downhill, so very easy to enjoy the views. Having ridden through Combe Laval, we descended some more and hit some back roads with a lot of loose gravel and big patches of sand. This would be a common thing throughout our trip. The gravel in this part of France is not what we're used to at home. It's much slower and a lot looser. On day 3 we left Pont-à-Royans behind us, and literally the first turn we made, we joined the climb up Gauche de la Bourg. Within 5 minutes of riding, we were getting treated with these views already. After a good hour of climbing, we left the canyon behind us and joined a gravel road to Villers-de-Lans. We stopped there to get some supplies. Leaving the town behind us, the route sent us up a ski slope. Luckily we had some fans cheering us on. More climbing followed until it led to a plateau, where we would spend the better of 2 hours on twisting forest trails. At some point we got to a dead end, but with no cell service we decided to follow a mountain bike trail that led us to our route again. Finally, we reached the descent that would take us to the last climb of the day, the Col de Rousset. It got very cold and super windy at the top. We filled up our bottles and then continued our way through the tunnel. The sights were beautiful, but I did not film much as my phone was being blown out of my hands. With winds probably over 100 kph, we had to pedal a lot to keep some speed during the descent. After a good 6 hours in the saddle, we reached the town of D and could call it a day. On day 4 we left the stunning town behind us to start the longest day in the saddle. A ride of 140 kilometers that would bring us back to our stay in Loriol-du-Comtat. Re-entering the Provence region meant that the mountains were smaller and the lavender fields started to come back. This day didn't have the typical tourist spots like the days before, but it was constantly mesmerizing. With about 30 kilometers to go, we started seeing the Mont Ventoux again. It was getting really hot in the afternoon, so we were glad when we reached the end of this ride. Day 5 finally took us up the Ventoux. From the start, it was a 42-kilometer uphill to the summit. While getting closer, it was teasing us the whole way. We both weren't feeling too fresh anymore, so with the mountain constantly in sight, you start to think if and how you're going to reach the summit. A quick pit stop in the famous town of Bédouin and off we go. We started the climb on the roads, but would leave it eventually to join the trail, taking us across the mountain to join the road coming up from Malocène. The gravel path was quite chunky, with a lot of loose rocks. It felt like there was no air in the forest, and with no wind cooling us down, it was getting quite hot. Once we reached the Malocène side, we filled our tires with air to race our way to the top. For once during this trip, we were not rewarded with stunning scenery. Instead, we got a grey backdrop. During the planning of this trip, my dad saved one of the best things for last. Gorges de la Nesque, another twisting canyon descent to finish our 5-day trip with a bang. And with that, our cycling adventure in France came to an end. In some way, I'd like to call it our own mini Tour de France.